There's that one. And good morning, everybody. All right. So Mario has been a bit of a bitch and absent and hadn't been with us this week until today. I've got him back. I understand you've got shit to do sometimes, and sometimes that shit isn't the show.
It's my work schedule. For me to have been on the show this week, that would have required my hard out at exactly 8, exactly 8, and I would have everything would have to be pre-staged, and I have to jump in the truck right away. Okay, so I'm afraid it's just I don't have those organizational capabilities. I'm afraid. Okay, so or I do, but they have to be.
It's not that hard. Mario, all it requires is that you put your pants on before we go live.
That type of accountability would require me being under direct threat of UCMJ action. Okay.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, I'm sorry, Chris, you simply don't have such authorities over me.
I remember having a piece of that authority and hearing you screaming from the other side of the barracks door. No, God, no, it's happening again.
The transition from Mario Romano, okay, from civilian to soldier, was one that was achieved through reinforced trauma. Okay, see, Mario, unfortunately, there are two ways to train someone. Okay, there's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Okay.
Yes.
Sadly, positive reinforcement simply cannot puncture a fully developed prefrontal cortex at the time that I joined the Army. Only fear and pain can change me. Anyway.
Let me see if I can find a good video that goes with this story, because now I have to tell a story before we get started. It would be excellent if
what are you looking for?
Okay, so while we were at DLI, Dad came out to visit for a while, and he had our buddy Cade with him. They drove my truck across the country to us, and that's not a good okay, anyway, I was hoping to find some videos of I got one. Okay, so I don't remember what it was that Mario did, but I'm sure it was his fault. His platoon was having the shit smoked out of them in the gravel pit, log PT, and it just happened to be while my dad and my civilian buddy Cade had come to visit, and they had followed me back. We were in my barracks room for a minute, just kind of looking around and talking about what the world looks like, and we could hear the drill sergeant counting as Mario and his unit were being smoked in the sand pit, and they were being put through log PT, which is a group punishment training exercise that I'm a big fan of.
I was part of the reason that was happening, but that was not entirely my fault. Okay, I don't even remember what we did, but John Byrne and Daniel Witt were also indicted. Okay, in whatever infraction that was. Okay,
so this wasn't a gas issue.
It wasn't entirely Mario. Nope.
Well, anyway, basically, this is basically what they were doing.
Right shoulder position.
Everybody has to pick up the log.
We'll do it one time for practice. Right shoulder, left shoulder, overhead toss.
And then they have to move with the log. They have to maneuver with the log. We used to do this competitively against other units to see who could better handle their log.
That log is, by the way, that log is inaccurate. Okay, it should still have tar on it from its days as a telephone pole. All right,
yes.
There should be nasty splinters sticking out of the side of it, and bonus points, an old rusty nail. Okay, inaccurate, I'm afraid.
And as this was going on, we could hear the drill sergeant counting off from up in my room, and Dad walked over and stuck his two fingers out and split the blind so he could look out the window down at the sand pit, at the gravel pit, and watched these guys getting smoked. And our buddy Cade walked over and reached up to take a peek and see what the sergeant major was looking at. And Dad just put his hand up and pushed Cade's hand out and said, "No, this isn't for you."
We've got YT Premium in the chat who's apoplectic. The fact that we don't have Cameron here. Have you been gone for a while?
Hey,
Cameron is a rare treat. Okay?
Yeah, Cameron's a busy boy. YT, given your interest, I have to ask: are you in fact Z Cheeseburger?
Yeah. If you are, that would be an amazing revelation. Not dead.
Yes. So Mario, you wanted to kick us off with the Autopen conversation this morning, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we're gonna talk about two topics today, and they tie together pretty nicely. The Autopen scandal, which we have not discussed in any real detail since it broke. I've been waiting for some more details, and yesterday we got some significant ones. But there's also some stuff going on in the world of AI, and as we go through this morning, we're going to tie those two together pretty nicely. Mario, you want to start with your Revolver article?
Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows that in the last days, all right, of the Biden administration, and for the most egregious of these pardons, it literally was the last day. Okay, January 19th, a day prior to Trump being inaugurated for the second time. All right.
Hey, wait, real quick, Mario.
What?
We have a comment from YT Premium. Yeah, it's me. I ain't see you on Twitch anymore. Yeah, they threw us off Twitch.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why, but we just aren't on Twitch anymore. And you know what?
Your fellow. The truth is, Cheeseburger, your Rainbow Coalition cohort most likely mass reported us, and we got banned on Twitch. So,
yeah,
you know what? Clean up your own house, damn it! All right. All right.
And also, get the hell away from. Hey, Cheeseburger, get off YouTube, get over on Rumble, and watch live and make a comment, and you might win a free month.
Yeah, the only time you're going to see Cameron is a rare Saturday night treat, okay? And you'll have to be on Rumble.
You must now pay to see Cameron.
That's right. Consider it
Cameron has become a premium commodity.
$10 a month for virtual Cameron OnlyFans, okay? It's a good value, all right? Anyway, so...
Cheeseburger, so you get over there and sign up, and the next time we get Cameron on a Saturday, I'll make him dance.
Some of the most agreed. That's right. With a little cowbell, it'll be great. Okay. Now, January 19th. Okay, the most egregious pardons from Joseph the Robinette Biden. Okay, but now these pardons were apparently made with an Autopen. All right. Although I do have it under some good authority that he actually did sign his son's pardon. Okay, Hunter Biden's pardon was signed in person. All right. Other than that, though, this was done via Autopen, which I don't really even understand why this machine exists. All right. What it is a little mechanical arm with a bunch of like high precision servos that will perfectly mimic a signature that it has recorded. All right. In the days of like a digital signature, all right, and anyone who works in the federal government, okay, and that would include Joseph Robinette Biden himself, he would have essentially a CAT card, all right, which is looks like an ID card. It's got the microchip in it, okay, and when you insert it into a slot on the computer, then you have the option to sign PDFs with a digital signature, and that is the equivalent of a handwritten signature. Okay, it's legally binding, all right, because it is tied to your individual ID on your individual access card. All right, so why does this exist? I mean, I suppose in a previous era, Maybe you needed a machine if the executive or whoever was not available at the time for signature, and it would of course be followed up with a secondary witness signature who would be verifying the fact that yes, the individual that this machine is signing for has given his authorization. All right. Now, the individuals who were pardoned were on January 19th Francis Biden, James Biden, Sarah Biden, Valerie Biden, okay, and along with a couple other Biden in-laws, all right. Dr. Anthony Fauci, Mark A. Milley, and the entire J6 committee, okay. All of those pardons were conducted by Autopen. Now, if the president is not available, okay, to sign, and if the president is unable to use his cat card to actually click and sign the documents. In other words, if you have an executive who is so mentally or physically has so physically or mentally declined that he is incapable of clicking a mouse or picking up a pen and writing his name, you have to ask yourself: is that not clearly a 25th Amendment situation, right? Remember, with the left always projects. All right, they project upon their adversaries what they themselves are in fact doing. So, all the calls for 25th Amendment being used to remove Trump from office during his first term, that is in fact everything they accused President Trump of is in fact what Joe Biden was. All right, just understand that. So all these were signed by Autopen, and we know that the president, and we know that it was Jeff Zients, okay, a dual citizen, of course, who was the one making the decision for these pardons to be made. Was it done in concert with Joe Biden? I don't even know. Okay, I know that
we actually do know that now, and we'll get to that in just a minute.
Well, based on a New York Times article, okay, it appears that he was the one making the decision, and there was no reference to whether or not Joe Biden was even involved. Okay, so Jeff Zients, was basically like Biden's chief of staff, I believe, or whatever, but his go-to guy right next to him. Okay, his action man. All right, dual citizen, of course, and right. So these and some of these pardons were preemptive pardons. Okay, in particular, Fauci, General Milley, and the J6 committee. Preemptive pardons, meaning that for any crimes that could be discovered that they had committed in the course of their official duties within the United States government, they would in fact be pardoned for that as well.
Correct. Now,
which seems pretty ludicrous.
The power of the pardon is defined in the first clause of Section 2 of Article 2. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, which is to say, for offenses that exist against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So if someone has been, impeachment refers to the conduct of disciplinary action against an elected official for actions taken within the confines of their legal capacity, right? The reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, right? This is a big part of the conversation that's going on right now around the pardon of Derek Chauvin, right? Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder by the state, and then he was convicted again on federal charges. And there have been a lot of people crying for Donald Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin, who was obviously railroaded, obviously did not commit murder, certainly not first-degree premeditated, malicious, race hate-based murder as he's charged and being confined for, and having been stabbed 27 times since he's been incarcerated. The problem is the power of the pardon only extends to the power to pardon offenses against the United States, which is to say federal crimes. So if Donald Trump were to pardon Chauvin, the state conviction stands and he ends up being remanded to the custody of the state. And in this case, we're talking about, it's Missouri, right?
Yeah.
and there's a there's a very serious concern about his mixing with the general population in the jail that he would be in the prison that he would be sentenced to, if he were pardoned by the federal government and not Minnesota. Thank you, Pitt Danny. If he were pardoned by the federal government and not pardoned by the state government, he would basically have to be transferred from the federal prison where he is currently to the state prison, which is apparently a much more dangerous place, at least for him, for several reasons. Now, and I say all that to say this: in the case of these pardons issued by Biden, again, for people who are not yet even, they haven't even been not prosecuted, indicted for the various crimes for which they're being pardoned. Okay, sure. You know what? Just for the sake of argument, let's say, okay, cool. They can't be indicted on any federal charges. Where are the states? Where the hell are the states charging these criminals with the crimes that they committed within their states? Right?
Well,
where are Virginia and Maryland? And the obvious answer is obvious. Their governments are also infected with communist criminal hacks.
Virginia has its own deep state. Okay, I'm sure every state does to a degree.
Yeah, but Virginia's deep state is a second tier.
Yes, exactly. It's tier 2.
It's a second tier
of the
federal
larger
deep state.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it's basically when I say the Virginia deep state, I mean the Northern Virginia deep state. Okay.
Those Richmond, north of Richmond.
Yes, the Richmond, north of Richmond, precisely. All right. And Minnesota is essentially a lost state. Okay. Criminal Democrats have been in power indefinitely. Any state where you have one party, all right, in power essentially indefinitely, is going to be hopelessly corrupt. Okay. That includes Texas. Okay. It's just the corruption favors the Republican Party. All right. Make no mistake. All right. So Minnesota's lost. It's basically a frozen wasteland that will soon be under the direct control of a Somali caliphate. All right, it's fact. It's just a fact.
No, I was laughing at this comment, this dangerous comment.
Patrick is the deep. He is. He holds all the keys to your state government. Okay,
literally.
He is the deep state. All right. Subpoena now. Anyway, so the two individuals in Congress have taken a keen interest in this Autopen scandal. Okay, and I know this isn't like breaking news or anything, guys, but we haven't touched it yet, so I thought we might as well. Now it's Representative James Comer from Kentucky, I believe, and also Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky have taken a personal interest in this. Representative James Comer, he wants the following individuals subpoenaed: Karine Jean-Pierre, okay, the DEI extraordinaire, Ian Sams, Andrew Bates, and Jeff Zients. Wants them subpoenaed, basically to ask them questions about the legitimacy of these pardons. Was the president aware? Was the president paid off? And someone asked earlier in the chat, were any of these pardons purchased? Two of the ones on January 19th were for two very high wealth individuals who were charged with tax fraud. That most likely those were paid for.
Yeah,
I mean it stands to reason. All right. So Comer wants a Republican congressional investigation. I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it this time, guys. So basically get his name in the papers, but nothing ever happens. All right.
We're going to keep voting, and we're going to keep voting Republican, even though they're useless, because the situation we find ourselves in is we vote between evil and stagnation. That's it.
Yeah,
when what an American conservative wants is to vote for your office to replace 4 others and just eliminate them.
Yeah. It's yeah. You're voting for first gear or fifth gear. So anyway, and then Rand Paul from Kentucky. This one something might happen here. All right. He wants a what is he? Darn it! What did he say he wanted to do? He wants the. Oh yeah. He wants Dr. Fauci, okay, to be indicted by Pam Bondi. Okay, kind of. I mean, I don't know. Pam Bondi might actually do it. Pam Bondi needs anything at all to distract from the fact that she is effectively the fall guy or fall gal for the Epstein client non-release, right? So it would be a good political move for her to do something sensational like indict Dr. Fauci,
Yeah.
right?
I think she's. I hate. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but I think Red Flag Barbie is pretty much cooked here. This is probably the Epstein debacle is probably the most damaging unforced political maneuver error
you would
that I can remember.
You would think that, but Trump, at least second term Trump, okay, values loyalty over competency. Okay, I would say that again. Trump values loyalty over competency. Okay, and you could say for good reason, given the levels of treachery and palace intrigue that his administration was forced to endure in that first term. Okay, so I get it. It's one of his own little. It's the Florida Mafia. Okay, something he's got closer control to.
Now, in fairness, most of us, at least on some level, do in fact value loyalty over competence, right? That's why nepotism exists.
Yeah. Yep. So Rand Paul, Senator Kentucky, wants Fauci indicted for, at a minimum, for perjury. Okay. We all know that Fauci is guilty of perjury. We sat there, we watched him. Too bad Cam's not here. He does a really good impression of Fauci. Where Fauci lied about the origins of COVID-19. He lied about the what's it called? When you intentionally make a virus worse to study it, gain of function research. Yeah, gain of function research. He lied about that. Okay, and he also lied about the survival rate or the fatality rate of the virus, which basically, if nothing whatsoever had been done about COVID-19, all right, it would have been a worse year for the flu than normal. All right, maybe an incremental increase in the amount of deaths occurring, but it would not have been a pandemic. It would not have resulted in morgues getting filled up, resulting in a pandemic level response. Okay,
and the
panic over COVID was entirely manufactured. All right, to change America for the worse, and to basically execute greater federal control over the country.
And you mentioned the flu season from that year. For all the conversation we've heard about increased rates of myocarditis, heart failure, died suddenly, the vaccine is less effective than we were told it was. There's all kind of scandal around 2020. But let me take you back in the Wayback Machine and the time machine back to 2020, and it amazes me that today we don't hear more conversation in the news about something that we were pointing to and talking about and asking questions about back then. How is it that in the middle of this global pandemic, suddenly, magically, incidents of the flu
disappeared,
have just dropped and just vanished? Well, it's like the flu took the year off so the other guy could come in and do double duty.
Right.
And that doesn't make sense.
At the heart of it, COVID-19, okay, and the vaccine, the mRNA vaccine scandal, okay, which followed it, that falls into the same category as Epstein. All right, topics too big. All right, where the shit is stacked way too high, and both parties, okay, the entire political establishment is guilty. All right, if the entire political establishment is guilty, then you're not going to get a significant investigation into it. All right, because just like if every bit of truth about Epstein's operation, okay, and the people who are above him and where that information was ultimately going, if all that would be was released, it would result in the complete destruction of the current United States government and its continuity. Okay. The exact same thing would result if the truth about COVID, from the origins in that in that research institute in China, with a connection to Dr. Anthony Fauci, all right, and was a guy Novax, I believe his name is, the BioNTech executive, whatever, and the CDC. It would result in the collapse of the United States government, end of all continuity, and basically there'd be a lot of people who be like getting the worst burn possible, okay, in the stock market. They would be losing their entire investment lost, all right, because the United States government has been completely delegitimized, and can no longer execute control over the country. So anyway, Rand Paul wants this guy indicted. He wants him essentially that way. His lawyers, Fauci's lawyers, will respond with no, he has a preemptive presidential pardon. He can't be indicted, and then essentially it'll bounce around a couple district courts. Ultimately, it'll go to SCOTUS, all right, where they will be forced to make a decision on it. Okay, and that's the idea. All right.
Okay, so we've wandered way off the Autopen.
But I came back.
No, I got you.
I came home.
I want to bring us back around to that, but since I just broke us up for a second to try and bring us back to that, let me just say this. I see a lot more people watching right now than I see commenting. If you're watching right now and you have not made a comment in the live chat, we just hit one of our target numbers. If you're watching on anything other than Rumble, get your ass over to Rumble, click on the button, set up your free account. If you're watching on Rumble with a free account right now and you have not yet made a comment in the chat, in 10 minutes, I'm going to give away 1 free month of premium subscriber membership, which will give you access not only to our deep dive behind the paywall premium members only content on Saturday nights, which we just covered. What did we do this past Saturday? We covered
Epstein.
Epstein. We just did a deep dive on the Epstein files, and the thing you squeeze from those. Because Mario, what is it that you squeeze from an orange?
Did you?
So, those of you out there watching that haven't made a comment yet, go ahead and make a comment in the live chat. You got about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to give away a freebie at random to anybody in the chat, and you're not eligible unless you've made a comment. Yes, dear, that includes you.
That's right.
So the
extreme nepotism.
Right.
Extreme.
So the enemy is trying desperately to spin the story on the Autopen. We've just got this article out from the New York Times. Biden says he made the clemency decisions recorded with Autopen.
Wait, I had one more thing. One more thing that's very important that I wanted to mention. Okay.
Damn it.
And I'm on schedule because we are technically right at the first half of the show, or at the end. Okay.
Pit Danny says 3 hours of Epstein. It was grueling. Yes, it was, Danny. Yes, it was.
But you needed it. It was good for you. Okay. And there were treats at the end. There was comedy at the end if you made it.
There always, yeah.
Anyway,
we need to always have treats at the end.
Yes, that's right.
Dessert,
right.
as it were.
Now, also related, directly related to this story, is Biden's White House doctor, Kevin O'Connor. He recently appeared. Before a deposition. All right, in Congress, and basically all the questions that they asked of him, like, hey, about Biden's competency, okay, and his fitness to serve, even his general condition. Okay, the man took the fifth. All right, which basically means he. I choose not to say anything because I might be indicting myself, essentially. Okay, incriminating myself.
Now, legally speaking, we are not allowed to take. Now, this is legally speaking within the confines of a court of law and the argument of legal procedure, criminal indictment, etc. We are not allowed to take the pleading of the fifth as an indication of one's guilt. In fact, Littlefinger got in trouble for that in the Kenosha Kid case. He tried to make some hay out of the young man pleading the fifth on a particular question and tried to suggest to the jury that was the same as admitting that he was guilty, and the judge excoriated him. But let me be very, very clear about this. We are not a fucking court of law here. I am more than happy to extrapolate guilt from someone's pleading of the fifth, especially in a case where there is no other reason to plead it.
Also, Littlefinger flagged the entire jury with an AR-15. In classic,
yes, he did.
Classic moments
in America. He did.
Classic moments in American jurisprudence.
Hey,
anyway,
hang on, Mario. Right. Before you say anything else, the wife has a great question here. She says patient doctor stuff. That would have been a great reason for him to retain his testimony and not make comments, and instead,
he chose not to.
He chose to plead the fifth instead of pleading patient doctor confidentiality. That's very telling and very alarming. Because he had a perfectly reasonable legal grounds to maintain his confidentiality, and chose the one that is most suspicious given the context.
Right. What it means is that those are HIPAA requirements. Okay. So basically, the hearing or the deposition he was at, essentially, there must have been something in place where it basically would waive that. All right. So he had the ability to speak freely through whatever I don't know, whatever legal rules that they come up with. He chose
the Sergeant Major. Take His Majesty's comment here. I think the president's doctor is an employee of the government and contracted to report on his observations.
That's also correct.
Imagine you've got teachers, right? School guidance counselors, principals, assistant principals, et cetera, et cetera. These are all positions of responsibility that have a duty to report. So your kid shows up with a broken arm or a black eye. They are required by law to ask some questions.
Right. And
if they suspect that your kid has a black eye because you're an asshole and you punched him in the face for not bringing you another cold beer by the griddle, they have a legal obligation to notify the authorities. Yep. Why should not we have a similar expectation of the people who are monitoring the health and cognitive capacity of the leader of the free damn world?
Your doctor is not a priest and a confessor. Okay, if your interaction with him, all right, becomes tangential to possible criminal activity, then he has to talk. All right. Anyway, so
Well, and if your patient is the guy with the football and oatmeal for brains, we have concerns.
Exactly. All right. So that's it for the Autopen. I don't anticipate Cobra getting anything.
Can you send me a kid with some coffee?
Yeah, but Pam Bondi, if you're listening to me right now, indict Fauci. All right, for the mouth breathers out there, it will really it will deflect all attention from Epstein. Okay, for the mouth breather class. All right, and let's be honest.
You just said that's all for the Autopen. I got one more thing on the Autopen. I want to hit the New York Times article real quick. I started to. The headline from the New York Times is Biden says he made the clemency decisions recorded with Autopen. And then, watch this.
Of course he did.
What, 20, 30 paragraphs down? Right? Mr. Biden said in Thursday's interview that he had his staff use an Autopen for the warrants because he had granted clemency to so many people. The Autopen was used. Some of the individual warrants included large batches of names because they all fell into the same broad policy category, like reducing the sentences of nonviolent drug offenders who met standards Mr. Biden established. Now, that's important. Nonviolent drug offenders who met standards. Okay. And we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in just a minute. On October 30th, the emails reviewed by the Times shows Mr. Biden's White House counsel, Ed Siskel, notified senior staff to expect a flood of lobbying for clemency grants at the administration's end and laid out a process for an orderly review. The president makes the final decision on the final pardon and or commutation slate. But here's the thing. There were thousands of them. More than he could identify and make more than he could individually identify in the period of time available, to an extraordinary degree. And it says very clearly what they did. They came in 4 batches, and what they did is basically they said, everybody who meets this set of standards, you may give that person a pardon. You may choose the people you want to pardon, and here's a set of loose standards that they need to meet. This is different than the way that has been done before, handling batches of categoric pardons, like with Trump's J6 pardons, or with for example, Reagan's amnesty clemency clause maneuvers. In those cases, it's like it works similarly to how a class action works. You could say that all people of this class. That's not what Biden did here. He didn't say all people of this class. He said if a person can be associated with a loose class, then you may give an individual pardon to that person, which means which means that rather than pick and choose people to pardon individually, he handed the authority to pardon over to other people, over to third parties. But this is important because Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 says very clearly, the president shall have power to grant pardons, reprieves, and pardons. Not the president and his subordinates, not the president, his assignees, not the president or his agents. The president shall be the commander in chief, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States. And that's for offenses against the United States. He has granted pardons to people who are not yet accused or indicted of offenses against the United States. He is stretching the authority of his office beyond the confines of his term of service. His tenure is expired. He no longer has authority. His pardons cannot reach into the future if they were ever legitimate to begin with. Oh,
and let's talk about what we mean by classes of crimes. Okay, so you mentioned the thing about drug offenses, right? How the drug offenses could be considered a class of crimes. Okay, well, on January 19th, three individuals were pardoned for their basically criminal activities regarding crack cocaine. Okay,
that is a hot young wife.
Nice. All right. Now,
and this is a hot cup of coffee.
Three individuals were pardoned. Okay, for basically drug offenses related to crack cocaine. Okay, because apparently Biden has to make amends for the fact that he threw an entire generation of black men in jail for crack cocaine. So that's his party shot.
Mark. That was racist.
What?
Jungle predators.
Super predators. Okay?
Super predators.
Right. Super predators.
He took the super predators out of your urban jungles.
That's right. It's Hillary Clinton, and yes, and public schools will become a racial jungle. Right? He was right though. The 90s Biden. 90s Biden was dropping truth bombs. All right, left and right. All right. Except for Clarence Thomas. That was an act of absolute treachery what he tried to do to him. But okay, so we're talking about classes of crimes. What that means is that's basically means the January 6th committee. Okay, 26 people given blanket pardons. All right, for their activities during the course of that investigation. Now, you want to talk about Comer. Okay, Comer from Kentucky.
Yes, I do.
Wants to do his congressional investigation. All right. Well, let's look at that. Then there's that. Okay, which will probably go nowhere. And then there's the January 6th congressional investigation. All right. And there's the big difference between Republican and Democrat, if you ask me. All right. When Democrats have power and they create some type of investigative commission, they actually go after and horrifically punish and target their enemies. All right. Republicans do not do the same, unfortunately. So. But still, that blanket class of pardons referred directly to January 6th committee.
So, Autopen, how does this relate to AI? Here's the deal. We have
That's right, Sergeant Major Pervitin. Is it right for you?
Yep.
Talk to me about it.
What was it? The Swedish soldier that just took all of it that he had for the unit?
Finnish soldier took the whole. Yeah, took it all. Basically, was on a cranked out 2-week nightmare bender, okay, and survived. Killed like scores of Soviet troops, and And when they found him when he came down from it, like they had to basically they had to like pump the equivalent of a 1940s Gatorade into his anus for like a week to rehydrate him.
Yeah, when you're having to put the IV in your butthole, buddy, you have made a mistake. But Unverified points out drugs are prominent in wars, all sides. Yeah, we've talked on this show before about being in Afghanistan or Iraq, and you got the Rippets. It's the equivalent of a Monster energy drink, but it's in like a 4-ounce can, and it's got a half a pack of cigarettes worth of nicotine in it on top of all the other stimulants, and that. I tell you,
yeah, or
throw down 2 Rippets and go on a 10-hour foot patrol. That's how bodies hit the fucking sky.
Or you go to the
not the floor, they go up,
hit the sky. Or you go to the PX in Baghdad, and it's like, why do these soldiers need so much Robitussin? Like,
yeah, give me 2 Rippets and a Miklik. I will solve your entrenched problem right now. Your insurrection will be over. 2 Rippets and a Miklik. We're done.
Rippets during the day, Robitussin at night.
Yeah.
Do not mix them.
No.
Fucking bath salt warriors. Okay, we don't need that. We don't need that. All right.
Speaking of irresponsible choices, so how does the Autopen connect to artificial intelligence? Here's the thing: we have rights. We've talked many times about the Constitution and what people tend to refer to as constitutional rights. There's no such thing as a constitutional right. I say this over and over again, till I'm blue in the face. I want to drive this home. I want to make sure you guys understand this. What we have are natural rights. We have the rights that are inherent to us by dint of our existence, by dint of our being, our existential quality as human beings. You have rights. What the Constitution does is it enumerates many of those rights to explicitly forbid the government from interfering with those rights. But we hear people talk about their rights all the time, and they never talk about their responsibilities. I've spoken briefly, and I'll make a quick reference here to a concept that I refer to as the 7 deadly virtues, which gets into Nicomachean ethics and the idea of the balance of morality. Right. So the idea being that for each of the 7 deadly sins, there is a related necessity. Right. The sin of lust is an overindulgence in the biological imperative to foster the next generation. The sin of gluttony is a dangerous overindulgence in the biological necessity to imbibe fuel to continue functioning. And this is true for the sin of wrath is an overindulgence in the necessity of security and justice. That goes across the board. That is similar to, I have a right to keep and bear arms. I have a right to keep and bear arms. And that is to say, what it means to have a right is that I have the authority to enforce that right against any who should seek to hinder, infringe upon, retard my exercise of that right. But we do not have the right frivolously. We do not have the right to keep and bear arms frivolously. We have the right to keep and bear arms because we have a natural imperative to survival. We live in a world where the keeping and bearing of arms has been made necessary by their existence and their having by any opponent that we might encounter. And we have individually, at a minimum, the personal responsibility to ensure our own security and survival. But if you're any kind of a man, you have that responsibility to your family, your progeny, your property. You require the right and the therewith entangled authority to enforce that right and its exercise because it is required of you to have that authority and that power in order to fulfill your obligations, responsibilities, and duties. The Autopen, the advent of the Autopen, was an abdication of individual responsibility of executives to personally attend to the individual matters of their office. They abdicated the responsibility of their offices to a machine and a committee. AI is a big fucking step forward
Yeah.
down that slippery slope.
Yeah,
So
AI that's the ultimate trust the plan.
Correct. So to illustrate my point, this article is 3 years old, almost exactly 3 years old. This is from July of 2023. Embracing artificial intelligence in the classroom. Although there is a huge amount of interest in generative AI in the consumer world, particularly since the release of OpenAI's free ChatGPT program last November. So keep in mind, as of the writing of this article 3 years ago, ChatGPT was very much in its infancy. In the hallowed halls of academia, the response has been more wary. Concerns abound about academic integrity. There are also worries about how AI-generated content can be biased, inaccurate, and sometimes contain entirely false information dubbed hallucinations. That is, by the way, still a problem. AI over the last 3 years has jumped forward leaps and bounds, right? We went from Mid-Journey churning out dystopian, nightmare, bizarre, abstract garbage to VO3 today, creating things that, quite frankly, are beginning to escape the trap of the uncanny valley within the confines of artificial generation. That leap forward in technology is extraordinary, right? It took humanity some like 60,000 years to go from hunter-gatherer to agriculture, right? And then another 1,000 years to go from pure agriculture to industrialization. And then the jump to the information age was less than 100 years after that. The rapid rate, Moore's law tells us that the rate of increase of technology increases exponentially, or I forget, it's either exponentially or geometrically. Both are fast as shit.
Yeah.
Right? Things happen fast. The faster things happen, the faster they happen. And a lot of that has to do with the rate at which we communicate with each other, able to share ideas. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and crowd operating have been a huge boon for the rapid expanse and accelerating rate of acceleration of the development of technology. I hate that sentence because it ties itself to
it's either an inverse triangle, okay, or it's like an inverse funnel, okay. Either way, it's fast as shit. All right, it's telescoping. All right, so yeah.
So that's an article from 3 years ago that cites concerns that there will be problems. All right, but it says you have to stop pretending it doesn't exist. So 3 years ago, they're doing all this. Use AI alongside your students. Teach students how to ask the ChatGPT tool questions. This article from 3 years ago is saying we have concerns about academic integrity, but you teachers need to be making sure that your students are using this. You need to talk to them. You need to show them how to use it. You need to teach them how to use it. Fast forward just about 2 years from that article, and here we are. Survey: 86% of students already use AI in their studies. Again, this article is from August 28th of last year. This article is less than a year old, right? Just about. So 2023, that's 2 years ago. Now we're a year closer to us right now. And it's 86% of students already use AI in their studies, right? That's a survey from the Digital Council. And here we have it. They use it for search for information, check their grammar, summarize documents, paraphrase a document, and create a first draft. Now that create a first draft, all of these right here, I do for this show, right? But you have to understand what you're doing with AI. I can use AI effectively for the show because I have a background in doing research and analytics. So I can treat the AI like a research assistant, right? Instead of letting the AI do the research for me, I can say, okay, I need to know about X, Y, and Z. I know there was a study on this. I think Dr. So-and-so said something about this a few years ago. Go grab me those documents. Okay, now summarize the key points from those. That's a great way to use AI. If you already know the material and you're using it like a grad student that you're just running around the library, that's a great way to use it because you already know what you're working on and you're just looking for the source material to confirm your suspicions or even to refute them. And if you're using the AI correctly, one of my favorite things to do with ChatGPT is to ask it to give me a steelman argument against my own positions. I say, okay, I've looked at the news. This is what I think is going on. This is the political opinion I have, the personal opinion I have. I plug that into the chat and I say, now, you are a diametrically opposed political opponent of my worldview. Produce for me a steelman argument against the claims that I've made here. Boom. But we fast forward to this month, this year, and here we are. AI cheat. Well, share this tab instead. There we go. AI cheating in schools, 2025 global trends and bias risks.
Of course.
AI tools like ChatGPT have rapidly changed how students approach schoolwork. By 2025, 92% of students were using AI and 88% admitted to using it for graded assignments.
Yep. Well,
and one of the things that I'm hearing teachers say about this is kids are turning in book reports and then you ask them questions about it and it becomes clear very quickly that not only did they not read the book before they told the AI to write them a book report on it, they didn't even bother to read the book report that the AI wrote.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is we have allowed our students to abdicate their responsibility. And I just covered the Board of Education being defunded on Monday. When the Board of Education was established in the late 70s by Jimmy Carter, what happened is the various states abdicated their responsibility, and the cities and the towns and the counties and the parents, right, our forebearers, abdicated their responsibility to be good shepherds to the rearing and tending and training of our children.
Mm-hmm.
We abdicated our responsibility. I'm homeschooling for a reason. Our nation, the several sovereign states of our nation abdicated their responsibility to the training of children in the late 70s. And the result since then has been the absolute destruction of the American mind. Like I covered on Monday, the stats say that we have just under 80% of Americans are literate, but more than 50, what was it, 63%? I forget the numbers off the top of my head. It's like, but something like 63% read at below a 6th grade reading level. Yo, for my taste, that means that those numbers together tell me that about 1/4 of Americans are what I would consider to be literate.
Yeah, I agree. Let me jump in here for a minute. I got a hard out basically now because I got to log into work in a couple minutes.
Gotcha.
It's a question like why are parents?
My wife says, I'm homeschooling, cough. Yes, in fairness, I go to work and my wife is training the children.
Yeah.
I teach them shit, though. This morning I taught Michael about the price of vehicles over time.
Depreciation, indeed. So why are parents reluctant to put like new technologies, in the hands of their children, right? Well, one, it's because even if it's something we use every day, like Chris, do you want a free and open unrestricted internet? Of course you do. Okay.
Of course I do.
Would you put a free and unrestricted internet in the hands of your children? Of course not. Okay.
Hell no.
And it's not just because these things are inherently dangerous. Okay. For the untrained mind. All right. But it's also because when you grant new technology to your children, you've effectively created a situation where they lost a previous technology that you can fall back on. Okay. That they will never understand how to do. Case in point, putting the internet in the hands of a child, all right, and that's all they've ever used for whatever research, schoolwork, etc. Now let's say you lost the internet, Chris. Chris can walk into the library, walk up to the Dewey Decimal filing system, and know how to find the actual hard copy materials that he's looking for if he has to, if he loses the convenience of the internet. Can a child do that? Can the average middle schooler or even like high schooler today actually walk into a library and utilize the Dewey Decimal System to find the material that he needs for either his personal interest or for his assignment? Probably not. Okay.
Nope.
So
Mine can.
yes.
For exactly the reason, because my wife is homeschooling our children, and she
Yeah.
takes them to the library about once a week, or
Right.
rather, I should say at least once a week.
Right. So basically giving advanced technology to a child too soon, all right, without teaching them some redundancies, all right, is you're setting them up for failure. You are making them you are essentially raising little people who are less complete people than you are. Okay. And if you do that, you're not a good parent. So you know what I mean? That's what I want to say on that. And I do have to go. I got to log into work.
Okay. Hey,
Oh,
earlier I said I'd give a membership away to somebody at random. My wife got it.
You know what? I'm going to log out now, but I expect the chat to do the right thing and condemn Chris for his extreme nepotism. Okay.
Extreme nepotism.
Extreme.
Hey! I tell you what. If any one of y'all wants to walk your ass over here and fill up my coffee cup, I'll buy you a free month too.
All right, guys.
Good luck.
Ciao. All right.
So yeah, the whole opus of employing AI in education. Like I said, this is a total abdication of individual rights and responsibilities, and we will suffer for it. We are suffering for it, right? When's the last? Think about the last time you went through a drive-through to eat some garbage because you're not taking the time, like I like to do, to sit down somewhere that has actual roasted vegetables. But yesterday I was in a bit of a hurry, sort of trying to come home a little earlier, and I hit a McDonald's. And I want a couple of cheeseburgers. Okay, cool. How many do you want? You went to high school around here, didn't you? Public school, yeah. Unverified was gifted a membership by Aaron Olson. Aaron, we appreciate your patronage. And Bear, that means your ass better be here at 2100 this upcoming Saturday night. Hope to see you for the live show. Just go ahead and crack yourself open a nice bottle of whiskey and buckle up, because I'm sure Cyber's going to be there running his drunk mouth. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you Saturday night there, Bear. But yeah, I have some deep concerns about the introduction of AI into our schools. I've talked about just even without the AI being a part of it. I started talking about this several years ago. I love and hate the YouTube University trend, right? So when I say YouTube University, what I'm talking about is you can pop on YouTube, right? We prefer Rumble for our news and stuff, but let's be fair. YouTube still owns the DIY instructional space, right? You don't know how to do anything around the house. You pop on YouTube, watch video, and they'll sort you out, right? And I even talked about, so when I'll have things, I'll go to do a handyman job around the house, and I know what I'm doing. Right, I was a construction guy a long time ago. I was an electrician. I know what I'm doing with a lot of this stuff, and not all of it. And if I'm not sure, then yeah, I'm going to pull it up on YouTube University. I'm going to go watch a professional do the job and seek advice. But I'll even use it if I know exactly what I'm doing, and just to make sure that before I get ready to do the task, I'm ready to rock and roll. Right, I'm not going to forget something. I'm not going to have to get up and. If I just take 5 minutes and watch a YouTube video first, I might save 10 or 15 minutes on the job just because I was reminded to grab my, my other size wrench that I was going to need, whatever. The example I always give on this topic I had to repack the packing nuts in the shower handles on the shower because they were leaking. And I said, okay, let me just double check, watch a little video. And I watched a video on doing it. And by the end of the video, I'm like, okay, I knew everything. I was right. I didn't need this video, except that as the guy's demonstrating, he says, while you're in here, there's this washer on the end of the shower handle, on the end of the valve, this washer. These are dirt cheap. You might as well just go ahead and replace it while you're in here. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I ran down the street to the store and got a pack of washers, and I went ahead and changed those. And then the next time when I had to do one of the other showers in the house, I already had those on hand, and I remembered, oh yeah, hey, let me do that while I'm at it. And that saved me because, it might have been a year or 3 later, but eventually that washer was going to wear out. And I was going to have to go and open all that up and do all that work again just to replace the washer, right? So YouTube University is great for that. But at the same time, for old guys like me who have done this stuff a time or two and kind of know what we're doing already, it's a great, hey, pick me up, remind me. My old brain doesn't work as good as it used to, maybe. But it becomes a crutch. And it's analogous to our capacity to remember phone numbers. Back in the 80s and 90s, even the early 2000s, most of us that are older than about 30, there was a time in our lives when we knew probably 100 phone numbers off the top of our heads, right? Now, it helps that for a lot of that period, they were 7-digit numbers and not 10-digit numbers, but we knew, right? We knew, our home phone number, our closest friends. We probably knew not just 911 for emergency, but actually knew the phone number for our doctors, dentists, etc. You knew around 100 phone numbers off the top of your head that you could just pick up your phone and dial. You could pick up your phone and dial, right? I don't know my wife's phone number off the top of my head. I have a thing for that. And, Albert Einstein was famously quoted as having said that he didn't know his own phone number because it is a waste of mental energy, or it's a waste of memory to memorize things that I can easily look up. Well, there may be something to that, but at what point have we abdicated, as you abdicate responsibilities, as you hand your responsibilities over to another person or another object, another system, then why would you think that you get to retain the rights to go with that? Right? One of the principal arguments against the Second Amendment is, well, the police will take care of that. It's the job of the police to keep you safe. The police should have guns and you shouldn't. You can't be trusted with guns. They're not safe. Hold up a minute. If I abdicate to the police my responsibility, this is their argument, that I should abdicate to the government my responsibility to safeguard my own safety and security, which, by the way, is an argument the left makes, but is legally not the case. The police have no duty to defend you or to interfere in a crime that is currently occurring. They only have a legal duty, a legal responsibility to investigate the crime after the fact, hopefully make an arrest, indict, prosecute, and incarcerate the criminal after the fact. They have no legal duty to defend you, but we're expected to abdicate our responsibility to our own self-defense, safety, and security to the government. And with that, our right to keep and bear arms, which is the right to the authority to enforce our own responsibility. If you abdicate the responsibility of your mind to usefully process and execute the value of data, to make decisions, to understand the world, then you will eventually abdicate your right to access information at all. when your responsibilities begin to evaporate, your rights go with them, because you do not need the authority to act in the absence of a responsibility to do so. Especially not when there is another entity who bears that responsibility and therefore presents you a conflict wherein your attempt to enforce your authority in the service of that responsibility interferes with the responsibility of another. So the more you give somebody else responsibility, the less right you have to serve your own responsibilities. Right? So the more you sit around on your fat ass and do nothing, the fatter your ass is going to get until you are literally nothing. There you go. So I am going to put a pin in it there because I bought a new car yesterday and I got to go put a tag on it this morning before I can go to work. So, yeah, things to do. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow. All right. And hey, guys, throw me a little comment in the chat there. Or in the comments below after it ends? What y'all think of this thumbnail? I honestly want y'all's opinions. I want to make sure that I'm making thumbnails that you guys like and catch your attention, because hopefully they'll help drive some other attention to the channel. Cheers, guys.